In my mind, there's one choice for roofing around here, and I'd go with your best choice. Whether it's time to replace your roof or repair it, Best Choice Roofing provides top-notch roofing services tailored to meet the unique needs of Detroit homes and businesses. They serve the region and inside the city of Detroit, too. You can find out more at bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. That's bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit, or call 313-474-7031. That's 313-474-7031. Hey friends, welcome to your Daily Detroit for Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. I am Jer Stays. Today we went on the road within a stone's throw of Michigan Central in Detroit's Corktown neighborhood, and tucked behind the tracks is a company that's been finding its direction. They're called Grounded. They've expanded from a parking lot to a tent to their own 13,000 square foot building, where I saw electric vans being outfitted for camping, marketing, outreach, mobile workspaces, mobile health care, and more. Unveiled today at their facility, where about a couple dozen work, was their G3 model. So I stopped in to get the story from their founder and CEO, Sam Shapiro. If the episode sounds a little different than usual, well, it's because we recorded it across the table in one of those G3s. All right, we're going to get to that conversation. Before we do not forget to tell a friend about the show, and feedback, as always, dailydetroit@gmail.com, or leave a voicemail, 313-789-3211. Let's talk about the concept of Grounded. Why did you want to start this particular kind of business?
Yeah, it's not something that I planned on doing 10 years ago. If you had told me that I was going to start a business in this space doing camper vans and commercial vehicles, I would have been surprised. But I started my career in advertising and advertising technology, and I've always been a technologist. And I was living in New York. COVID happened. Everything shut down. I was in a very small studio apartment in downtown Manhattan. March 2020, everything shut down. I did not want to stay in my very tiny Manhattan apartment while the city was completely shut down, and so I decided to build a camper van. And I had never been an RV person. I actually don't think I had ever been inside of an RV, but I wanted to travel. I wanted to go spend time in nature. I wanted to work remotely because everybody was working remotely, and so I figured, why not? And I bought a 20-year-old Chevy Express for like $2,000, and I did all the cabinetry and electrical and upfitted it into a camper. And obviously that was not electric. And I lived in that for about 6 months, traveled all over the country, and I absolutely loved it. Had an amazing time. Went to national parks, state parks, campgrounds, cities. But there were some problems, and those problems generally stemmed from the combustion engine of the vehicle and running the engine. And so, for example, the engine broke down once, and then my whole home had to go into a shop, right, to get fixed. So that was super inconvenient. Generally speaking, I was having to do a lot of maintenance. I mean, it was a 20-year-old vehicle, so there was a lot of just maintenance to do. And then what's very common for RV users is, you have an electrical system inside. You want to be able to power things like the HVAC, charge your laptops. And so, oftentimes RVs will have a generator in them, like a diesel generator, or they'll have the electrical system, like mine did, hooked up to the alternator of the engine. But either way, whether it's a generator or just hooked up to the alternator of the engine, basically the outcome is the same, which is you end up running this combustion engine while you're in nature, while you're at a campground, and you're blowing exhaust and you're making a bunch of noise while you're trying to embrace nature. And so there's this sort of contrast, right? And so for all these reasons, I started thinking while I was on this trip how much better the product experience could be if it was fully electric, because it would fix all those problems I just mentioned. There's no maintenance really with electric vehicles. There's obviously no noise. And then the other thing is now you have this giant battery of the EV that you can pull to use power from for everything inside, the HVAC, like I said, your laptop, the lights, the stove, the water heater, all these different things. And so that was the origin of the idea for Grounded. I actually went to SpaceX, though, before I started the company after COVID, and I worked on Starlink. which also is kind of related to this whole thing, because while I was on my camper van trip, internet was a challenge, and I was working full time remotely. And so I had one of these little internet like LTE, modems that was trying to pick up the cellular network. And so I joked that the reason I went to Starlink was it was the only way to get one at the time. So I did that for a little bit, and then decided to start Grounded.
All right, you're doing SpaceX. You're not in Detroit. How do you end up here?
Yeah, so I had actually never been to the state of Michigan before I started Grounded.
Did you know we looked like a mitten?
I think I had heard that. I think I had heard that. And thought everyone.
What did you know before you came here? Is my question.
I really knew nothing. I honestly knew nothing. I knew a little bit about the University of Michigan, but not much. And all I knew was that, it got cold here. Really didn't know much. Didn't know the UP existed. But the reason I came here is I was looking for a place to start the company. I knew that I wasn't going to start it in New York. That would be a terrible place to build a hardware company for a lot of reasons. And I thought about Austin, Texas a lot, actually, because Tesla and SpaceX are down there. There's more manufacturing happening. But, I actually had a commercial lease in my hand. And the same week that I was about to sign a lease down there, I sort of serendipitously got connected to the Michigan Central folks. Michigan Central is, I guess your listeners are familiar probably.
Yes. I mean, I was there when they literally announced that it was happening, like the big party and everything. We've been following the story, I think, since 2018.
So we were the first startup member company of New Lab Michigan Central. And this was back in the summer of 2022. I got in touch with the Michigan Central team and the New Lab team, and they basically said, don't sign that Austin, Texas commercial lease agreement. Come to Detroit first for a trip and let us show you what we're building here and show you the vision. And so obviously New Lab wasn't open yet. Like the book depository was very much still under construction in the summer of 2022, but I came here, I saw what was going on, I saw the vision. I also did a trip to Brooklyn to see New Lab Brooklyn, which was their first building that I hadn't seen before, even though I had lived in New York. And so I saw sort of what this could be, and I understood. And so I was sold. The same week, I ripped up the Austin commercial lease, and I said to my co-founders that we would come to Detroit and at least try it. And I mean, literally, I said, we have to go to Detroit. It's a no-brainer. Like, we have to go and we have to try it. Worst case scenario, we hate it and we can leave in 6 months. Like, there's no long-term commitment being made here. And that was very much how we kind of went into this. And I really did not know, like I said, much about Detroit. Obviously, you hear things about Detroit. They don't tend to be good things historically. But I was open to it. So we came and I absolutely fell in love with the city and the state. And I love it here. I have been here 3 years now. I love being part of this whole community in Southwest and in Corktown, and it's great.
Specifically, you're a founder and you're working on this startup. What is something that you thought you knew about Detroit that you've now learned different in these years?
Well, there's a lot. One thing is that when I pictured Detroit in my mind, and again, like very ignorantly, not only before I had moved here, but like I said, before I had literally even ever been here, when I pictured Detroit in my mind, I imagined nothing but like industrial warehouse space, basically, like just total industrial space, warehouses, manufacturing, smokestacks, and like that was it. And then I got here, and I know too that this also has changed in the last few years, but the riverfront, I mean, beautiful, beautiful park along the river for miles and miles now between, downtown / Corktown and all the way to Belle Isle. Belle Isle, beautiful nature reserve and park. The Eastern Market, Saturday market, and like it blew my mind. You go to Eastern Market on Saturday mornings and there's, all these farmers from all over the state, fresh produce, plants and tree, and I was like, wow, this is not at all what I expected. And I think it's a really, the Eastern Market in particular, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a favorite of locals for a reason, you know? So let's talk about Grounded as a concept. Where is the company right now? What can people buy from you now? And I kind of I want to walk from there into what your vision for the company is. But let's start out. Someone's never heard of Grounded.
Sure.
What are they and what can people buy from you now?
So Grounded is a designer and manufacturer of modular electric vans for a variety of use cases, including electric camper vans, as well as commercial vans, mobile medical, mobile dental, reefer vans, pet grooming vans, mobile offices and command centers, food trucks, marketing and experiential vehicles. So we really basically build modular interior spaces on top of electric van platforms for a variety of use cases. We are in market. We've been in market for almost 3 years. I think that's something that is unique about the company. For us as a hardware startup, we did not spend 2 years in R&D and product development before releasing a product. We sort of hit the ground running, and then we've just been iterating and making the product better and better over the last 3 years. So we just today are launching the G3, which is our newest product, newest camper van. Has a lot of new features. If you go to our website, and you can see by vertical. So there's like a camper page, there's a medical page, there's a pet grooming page. You can see by vertical all the information. You can see photos of different builds that we've done. Our builds are modular, meaning customers to some extent can customize them. It's not like a build your own dream home, but it is choose which Lego-like components you want that we offer. And you can also use our configurator tool, configurator.groundedrvs.com, and actually walk through in 3D designing your own van.
One thing I noted in taking a tour of these is that there's also a focus on like environment and sustainability. Where does that come from for you? Like, why do that?
Yeah, I mean, I care about the environment. I think that humans have, caused or accelerated climate change, and I'm optimistic. I think we're gonna be able to fix it as a society. Through a multitude of ways, including both reducing our emissions and also other options of sort of reversing some of the damage that's been done. But I think electric vehicles are a big piece of that, and so obviously that's the sustainability story is a big part of the Grounded story. And I think when it comes to sustainability, I'm definitely a believer that you have to sort of do two things. You have to have sustainability for the sake of sustainability, but you also have to have a great product, and the sustainability needs to genuinely lead to a better product. Like, at the end of the day, people don't want to sacrifice a great product for sustainability. And so I think that's what we've done here. Like I said, I genuinely think an electric camper van is a better product. Some people have hesitation around range anxiety. The reality is most RVers in the country don't go more than 200 miles on any RV trip. And then even those who do are 99% of the time definitely not doing that in a single day. And so this is a 286 mile range electric camper van, and you can actually get over 300 miles if you're going on the slower side of things, like under 60 miles an hour. And then, like I said, you have this giant battery now, because it's an EV, that you can pull from for all your interior things. And so, and power consumption, power budgeting is a big concern and thing that RVers have to think about, because you want to run your HVAC for hours. And so having this big battery is really, really advantageous. What is
the most important thing that you've learned from version 1 to version 3? Because I've toured, I went all the way back to like the original, or what seems like the original. It's parked outside.
Yeah, the Ford.
Ford. Yeah. To this, which I think it's on the Bright Drop platform.
Yep, GM.
So in that transition, what have you refined the most in your mind?
It's a good question. There's some aspects that haven't changed. There's a ton, obviously, that have changed. I think the thing that has changed the most, that has a big impact, is the kind of the call it the platform, I guess. So what we call the Grounded platform, meaning you know, we have all these different vehicles that we build for different use cases, you know, commercial, medical, dental, campers, and customers can customize those. But there is a shared platform, a shared infrastructure, no matter which use case you're buying. And what that platform includes is this aluminum structure, cage structure that we build, almost like a frame of a house. It includes plumbing that's run throughout the vehicle, insulation, electrical wiring, all of our electronics, the battery, you know, the inverter, charge controller, the computer that we have on board, and our software that runs on that, the mobile app, you know, the fleet dashboard. All of that's the same, no matter which like furniture modules you're choosing. And I think the way that platform has developed is sort of key to the whole product offering and you know, idea of modularity. And it has evolved in such a positive way. Everything from the materials that we use, you know, which have improved dramatically, to just the way we construct it and the way we manufacture it, the way we've taken steps to industrialize it while simultaneously making the product experience better. You know, so I think that's really core to the whole grounded product.
All right, so let's vision a little bit here. We're in the shadow of Michigan Central. You've got this facility that you've obviously put money in. 5 years from now, where is Grounded? What are you doing, and what do you need to get there?
So our vision and our sort of our mission is to sustainably put, you know, people and businesses on electric wheels for all these different use cases. You know, vehicle upfitting is not a new thing. You can actually go all the way. I've actually found, your listeners will appreciate this. John King used bookstore.
Oh yeah.
I found a book there when I first moved to Detroit, and it was almost like a history book on recreational vehicles. And so it was talking about all the way back to the Model T. It actually even before the Model T, with some of the very first automobiles ever made, and how people all the way back then were converting them into what we would call campers or RVs today. And, you know, doing things like taking the horse-drawn carriage concept of what, you know, the sort of like living space that would be on horse-drawn carriages sometimes, and like putting them on these, you know, original automobiles. And so upfitting's been around a long time for vehicles. But we think that the way that we're upfitting and the way we're building the business and the quality of the product all make us really, really unique. And we tend to not even call what we do upfitting. I mean, in a technical way, yes, it's upfitting. But we think we're offering a lot more than that. We're offering a product that is, you know, happens to be built on these existing electric vans. And so the vision is, we have all these products across all these different verticals: camper, medical, pet grooming, dental, you know, food trucks, all the ones I mentioned. And so we have this catalog of product offerings. In 5 years, we're building on many different types of chassis. So today we're mostly building on the GM BrightDrop because it has such high range and has some advantages in terms of the interior space. But in the future, we'll offer vans built on the Rivian van, the Ford E-Transit, the Mercedes E-Sprinter, the electric Ram ProMaster, so the customer will be able to kind of choose which platform they want to be on. We'll also evolve to building on other chassis that are not even vans to start with, things like a cab chassis or even just a strip chassis, where we're actually building the whole box that sits on top of the chassis rather than starting with an already built box that is a van, if that makes sense. And that'll give us more control over both the manufacturing process and the end product itself. And so, and last thing there in just 5-year vision is scale, right? Volume. I mean, we'll be in a much, much bigger facility. We'll be producing, you know, right now we're producing, you know, call it 25 to 30 vans a year. Well, you know, our goal is to double that in the next year. In 5 years from now, we want to be doing, you know, in the hundreds of vans a year.
Yeah. And what kind of like investment does that look like? Like, is it something where you're looking to raise more capital? Or are you looking to build sales on sales? I mean, you don't have to get into super details, but I'm curious what your trajectory is, because, you know, these vans aren't cheap. You know, it takes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. I think what we've done well in terms of running the business is we like I said a few minutes ago, we started shipping and actually selling products early. And so we've been revenue generating, like almost literally since incorporation, where we basically pre-sold the first 3 vans. And so that's had a lot of advantages in terms of growing the business. So there was a bootstrap-like mentality to building the business. We definitely weren't like 100% bootstrapped. We raised some outside capital, and we will raise some more outside capital. But at the same time, I think building a revenue generating and soon profitable business is really important. So that's one of the goals. All of our internal metrics and KPIs are sort of based around that. We plan to get to profitability in the next few months and grow the business organically. Like I said, it's a combination. We will also raise outside capital. There's also debt. So I think a very specific type of debt, inventory financing or PO financing, meaning, we have the signed contracts with customers, and now a bank is going to basically loan money against the contract. So that way we're not using equity venture dollars.
And this is common in this kind of world.
Yep. So I think our type of business is really, again, like us going to a bank now and saying, hey, here's all these orders for G3s, and then loaning money against that. It's very straightforward. Like, the product is in existence. We've been shipping the product. There's not like risk around, can Grounded deliver the vehicle? Like, is this thing going to work, right? It's very different. If you're, building a new type of satellite, very different conversation, with a potential lender. But I think there's a very straightforward path to us growing the business using a combination of these different types of capital, which is kind of what we've been doing the last 3 years.
So you're optimistic, and you're optimistic about being here.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Love Detroit. Love the partnership with Michigan Central. We'll be growing into a bigger facility very soon, and we've also hired a bunch of people in Detroit. So the only people at Grounded who are not from Detroit are myself and Matt, who's our VP of engineering, who moved here from Seattle. He was at SpaceX, and then he was at Amazon Kuiper. He moved here for Grounded. We have 1 or 2 more people who moved here for Grounded, and then the whole rest of the team, we're 25 right now, including contractors, technicians who are helping physically build the vans. The whole rest of the team is all lives in Detroit, from Detroit, most of them born and raised in Detroit or surrounding area. So obviously that will continue to grow as we grow the company too.
All right, Sam, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And that's it for today. Thanks so much to our members on Patreon who make sure this happens every single day. Join them at patreon.com/dailydetroit. Swag, access to our community Discord, and a whole lot more. All right, thank you so much for listening. If you don't already, be sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get shows. I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and I'll see you around Detroit.